The cold wind blew through the quiet streets of Riverdale town. Evening lights flickered in the windows of tall buildings, and the sound of rushing cars mixed with the chatter of people heading home. Among them, on the corner of an old alley, sat a man named Tom. His clothes were torn and his beard had grown rough, but his eyes were calm. Tom had once been a builder. Years ago, he worked on the same streets where he now begged for spare change. But life had taken everything from him: his job, his small house, and his hope. Yet even in his rough days, he never complained. He just sat quietly, helping those who dropped something or needed a hand carrying things. Every morning, Tom would walk to the old church for food and water, then sit near a broken wall beside a bakery. The bakery owner, Mr. Allen, sometimes gave him bread that was left from the day before. "Tom," Mr. Allen would say kindly, "you've got a good heart, but you need to find some work again." Tom would smile faintly. "I will, sir. Maybe tomorrow will bring some luck." One afternoon, the sky turned gray. The wind picked up, and the people of Riverdale began hurrying home. A storm was coming. Tom found shelter under a large half-broken wall of an old building. He had seen that wall many times and knew it wasn't safe, but he had nowhere else to go. He pulled his blanket closer and watched as cars passed. Just then, across the street, a shiny black car stopped. From it stepped a woman in a long brown coat. Her name was Clara Bennett, one of the wealthiest women in town. Her family owned Bennett Constructions, the biggest company in Riverdale. She was known for her serious face and calm voice, and though she had money and comfort, she rarely smiled. People said she was too proud and too busy for anyone. Clara was on her way to meet a client at a nearby cafe. But as she crossed the street, she dropped her small purse. Coins rolled on the wet ground and papers flew in the wind. She bent down to gather them, unaware that the old wall behind her began to crack from the force of the wind. Tom, sitting nearby, saw it happen in seconds. The top brick started to shake. A deep sound came from the wall, like thunder trapped in stone. His eyes widened. "Miss, move away," Tom shouted, running across the street. Clara looked up confused. "What?" she started, but before she could finish, Tom dashed forward and pushed her aside. A loud crash filled the street. Dust and bricks fell where she had just stood. The broken wall collapsed with a roar, covering the ground with heavy stone. People screamed and ran. Cars stopped. For a moment, the air was thick with dust. Clara coughed and blinked, realizing what had just happened. Tom lay on the ground beside her, his arm bruised, his clothes covered in dust. Are you hurt?" she asked, her voice shaking. Tom smiled weakly. "No, ma'am, just a little sore." He sat up slowly, wincing. His shoulder hurt, but he didn't care. He looked at her again. "You're safe, that's what matters." Clara stared at him, speechless. A man with torn shoes and no home had just risked his life to save hers. Her heart, which had always been guarded, felt something new, something she hadn't felt in years. Gratitude. A crowd gathered. Someone called the police, and soon an ambulance arrived. The officer, Sergeant Lewis, helped Tom to his feet. "You saved this lady's life," he said, looking amazed. "That wall could have killed her." Tom only nodded. Anyone would have done the same. But the truth was, not everyone would have. Many would have turned away, afraid or too late. Yet Tom didn't hesitate. He had nothing, yet gave everything in that moment. Clara followed him to the ambulance. "Wait," she said softly. "You need to go to the hospital." "You might be hurt." Tom shook his head. "I'll be fine, ma'am." "Please don't worry." But Clara wasn't used to being ignored. "You're not fine," she insisted. "I'm taking responsibility for you." The paramedics cleaned his scratches, and when they asked for his address, Tom lowered his eyes. "I don't have one," he admitted quietly. Clara's expression changed. "You mean, you're homeless?" He nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Been that way for a while." The paramedic looked awkward. "We can drop him at the shelter," she offered. But Clara shook her head firmly. "No, he's coming with me." Tom stared in disbelief. "Ma'am, you don't have to." "I want to," she interrupted. "You saved my life. Let me help you now," the crowd whispered among themselves as Clara helped Tom into her car. The news spread fast through the town. People took videos, some clapped, and others simply watched in shock. Inside the car, silence filled the space. Clara looked at Tom through the rearview mirror. He sat straight, careful not to touch anything, his hands folded in his lap. "You don't need to be so tense," she said kindly. "I'm Clara." "I know," he said with a small smile. Everyone knows you, ma'am. And what's your name? Tom, just Tom, she nodded. Well, Tom, you just changed my life, he didn't answer. Instead, he looked outside the window, watching the lights pass. For the first time in years, he sat inside a warm car, feeling safe. When they reached Clara's big house on the hill, the servants looked shocked. The large mansion shone with golden lights, but when Tom stepped out, he felt out of place. Ma'am, maybe I should just go to the shelter, he said quietly. But Clara shook her head. You're staying here tonight? I won't take no for an answer. She turned to her housekeeper, Mrs. Hill, and said, Prepare the guest room and bring him some clean clothes. Tom tried to stop her. Please, I can't trouble you. Clara smiled softly. You're not trouble, Tom. You're the reason I'm alive. That night, Tom stood under the shower for the first time in months. Warm water ran over his bruised skin, washing away the dust and pain. He looked in the mirror and barely recognized himself. He put on the simple clothes Mrs. Hill had given him and sat on the edge of the bed. It was soft, clean, and smelled of lavender. Downstairs, Clara couldn't stop thinking. She sat by the fireplace, a cup of tea in her hands. Her assistant called to ask if she was all right. Yes, I'm fine, she said slowly. But I met someone today, someone who reminded me what real courage looks like. Her assistant was silent for a moment. You mean the man who saved you? People are already talking about it, ma'am. The whole town's sharing the story online. Clara looked out the window. Let them talk, she whispered. The next morning, when Tom woke up, sunlight filled the room. For a moment, he thought it was a dream. Then he saw the folded clothes on the chair and a tray of breakfast by the door. Mrs. Hill smiled kindly when she saw him. Miss Clara said you should eat. She wants to talk to you after. Tom hesitated. Is she angry? Mrs. Hill chuckled. No, dear. Quite the opposite. When he came downstairs, Clara was waiting in the garden. The wind was calm and the flowers moved gently in the sun. She turned to him with a small smile. Tom, she said, I don't believe in accidents. I believe people cross paths for a reason. You saved my life and I want to change yours. He looked confused. Change my life? How? She walked closer. I own a construction company. You said you used to be a builder, right? Tom nodded slowly. Yes, but it's been a long time. I don't even have the tools or a place to stay. Clara smiled warmly. You'll have both. Come work for me. I'll give you a job, a small home near the site, and a chance to start again. Tom was speechless. His eyes watered as he shook his head in disbelief. Ma'am, I don't know what to say. Say yes, she said simply, and for the first time in many years, Tom felt hope rise inside him. As he looked up at the clear blue sky, he whispered, thank you, but deep down, he didn't know that his act of kindness had already started a wave that would soon shake the whole town, in ways neither he nor Clara could ever imagine. The morning sun shone gently over Riverdale town, painting the streets in gold. The news about the homeless man who saved a rich woman had spread everywhere overnight. It was on television, in newspapers, and on people's phones. Homeless hero saves Clara Bennett, one headline said. Unknown man risks his life for wealthy businesswoman. Another read. Everyone was talking about Tom. Some called him brave, some called him a fool. But all agreed on one thing. His act was rare in today's world. Meanwhile, in the large Bennett mansion, Tom sat nervously at the dining table. He had never seen such a room before. Shining floors, soft carpets, and pictures hanging neatly on the walls. The smell of fresh bread filled the air. Clara entered, dressed neatly for work, holding her tablet in one hand. Good morning, Tom, she said warmly. Tom stood up quickly. Morning, ma'am. She smiled a little. Please sit down. You don't need to call me ma'am. Just call me Clara, he hesitated. That doesn't sound right, Clara. You're an important person. She shook her head. You're important too, Tom. You saved my life. That makes us equals, don't you think? Tom looked down shyly and nodded. Maybe. I'm just not used to all this. Clara sat down opposite him. Well, get used to it, because from today you're officially part of Bennett Constructions. Tom froze. Really, you mean it? Yes, she said with a proud smile. You'll start as a site supervisor. I read your file from the old company you worked for. Mr. Allen, the bakery owner, told me how good you were. Tom's eyes widened. He told you about me? Yes. He said you built half the new market square before the company closed. You've got talent, Tom. You just need a chance. Tom's throat tightened. He had dreamed of hearing those words again, but never thought it would happen. Thank you, Clara, he said softly. I won't let you down. I know you won't, she said, her voice kind. After breakfast, Clara's driver took them both to the company office. The tall glass building reflected the morning light. As Tom stepped out of the car, workers nearby looked surprised. Some recognized him as the homeless man from the videos. Hey, isn't that the guy from the news? One whispered. Why is he with Miss Bennett? Another said quietly. Tom felt their eyes on him, but he kept his head down. Clara noticed and said gently, Ignore them. They'll understand soon. Inside, she introduced him to her team. This is Tom. He'll be joining us as a site supervisor for the new community project. Her manager, Mr. Davis, frowned slightly. Are you sure, ma'am? He doesn't seem experienced for this level of work. Clara's eyes turned sharp. He has more experience than you think, Mr. Davis, and he has something money can't buy, courage. Mr. Davis said no more. That day, Tom visited the construction site, a large empty lot near the river, where Bennett Constructions planned to build affordable housing. Clara walked beside him, showing the blueprints. This project means a lot to me, she said. It's for people who can't afford fancy homes. I want to give them safety, comfort, and pride. Tom smiled. That's a good idea. People like me. We know how much a roof means, Clara nodded. Exactly why I wanted you here. As they walked, Tom noticed small safety issues. Loose boards, unstable scaffolding, and untrained workers handling heavy materials. His builder's eyes caught every detail. He turned to Clara. You need better safety checks here. Some of those beams are not secure, she looked surprised. You saw that already? Yes, Tom said. If one of those beams falls, someone could get hurt. I can help fix that, Clara smiled with respect. Then do it. From today, you're in charge of safety. Word spread quickly that the new supervisor was strict. Tom didn't shout or threaten anyone, but his calm voice carried strength. When he spoke, people listened. Double-check the ropes, he said. Move the bricks away from the walkway, and don't climb the scaffolding without a helmet. Some workers laughed at first. Who does he think he is? He was begging for coins last week. But soon they saw he knew his work better than anyone. He helped them lift heavy wood, showed them safer ways to move materials, and even fixed a broken crane cable himself. Slowly, the workers began to respect him. One of them, Ravi, came up one afternoon and said, Sir, you really know this stuff. You could have been rich if life was fair. Tom smiled gently. Richness isn't always about money, my friend. Sometimes it's about being useful. By the end of the week, the site was running smoothly. Clara visited often, checking progress. She noticed how the men listened to Tom, how they worked better with him around. Tom, she said one day, you've done more in a week than some managers in a month. He blushed. Just doing my job, Clara. But Clara wasn't the only one watching. Across town, some people didn't like the attention Tom was getting. Mr. Davis, jealous and proud, spoke quietly to others. It's just luck. He saved her, that's all. Doesn't mean he belongs here. Still, no matter what they said, Tom stayed humble. He spent his evenings helping workers learn safety tips and his nights reading old building manuals Clara gave him. One evening, Clara invited him to her office. Tom, do you know why I'm building these houses? He shook his head. To help people, maybe? She looked out the window at the shining city. My father started this company to make money. But I want to do more. I want to make a difference. I lost my mother when I was young because of a construction accident. A wall collapse just like the one you saved me from. Since then, I promised myself I'd build safe places for others. Tom listened quietly. That's why you were there that day? She nodded. I was inspecting an old site before demolition. If you hadn't been there... Her voice trailed off. Tom said softly, sometimes we end up where we're needed most. Their eyes met for a moment, and Clara smiled. Maybe you're right. Days passed, and the project grew faster. Reporters came to interview Clara and Tom. Cameras flashed, and microphones surrounded them. Miss Bennett, how does it feel to be saved by someone who had nothing? One reporter asked. Clara answered proudly. It taught me something. Kindness doesn't need wealth. Tom is proof of that. Another reporter turned to Tom. And you, sir, how does it feel to be a hero? Tom laughed shyly. I'm no hero. I just did what was right. The town admired him even more after that interview. People began leaving donations at the shelter under his name. Children drew pictures of him in school, calling him Mr. Brave. But not everyone was happy. Mr. Davis saw his own importance fading. He began planning to make Tom look bad. Small tricks at first, like hiding reports or changing materials. One morning, Tom arrived at the site and noticed something strange. The cement mix was too thin. It wouldn't hold the weight of the building. Who approved this? He asked. The workers looked unsure. Mr. Davis told us it was fine. Tom frowned. It's not fine. If you use this, the wall could fall. He immediately called Clara. She arrived within minutes. Tom explained everything calmly. She checked the records and saw that Davis had signed off the mix to save money. Her face turned serious. That could have caused another accident. Do you know how dangerous that was? Davis tried to defend himself. It was just one batch. Enough, Clara said sharply. You're suspended. Tom, thank you for catching this. After Davis left, Clara turned to Tom. You just saved more lives, Tom. Again. He smiled gently. Just doing what I know best. As they walked around the site later that day, Clara said, You know, people keep calling you a hero, but I think you're more than that. Tom looked confused. More than a hero? Yes, she said softly. You remind people that goodness still exists. You've changed me, Tom. You made me see people differently. Tom looked away shyly. I didn't mean to change anyone. I just wanted to help. But deep down, Clara knew it was more than that. Something about Tom's quiet strength, his simple kindness, had begun to touch her heart. That evening, when the workers finished for the day, they gathered around Tom. Ravi grinned and said, Sir, the mayor is coming tomorrow to see the site. He's heard about you. Tom looked surprised. The mayor? Why? Ravi laughed. To thank you. You're famous now. Tom chuckled, shaking his head. I don't need fame. I just want to see these houses built. But when the mayor came the next day and publicly thanked Tom for his bravery and honesty, the whole town cheered. Clara stood beside him, proud and smiling. As the crowd clapped, Tom whispered quietly, I still don't understand why all this happened. Clara looked at him with kind eyes. Maybe sometimes good deeds echo louder than we think. Little did they know. Something bigger was still coming. Something that would test their bond, shake their trust, and reveal the true hearts of everyone in Riverdale. Days turned into weeks, and the new housing project near the river grew taller every day. The workers admired Tom for his patience and honesty. Under his watch, the walls were strong, the floors even, and every worker felt proud to be part of something good. Clara visited the site often, sometimes bringing food for everyone. The workers liked her more now. She was no longer just the rich boss. She talked kindly, asked about their families, and even helped carry boxes once or twice. Miss Clara's changed, Ravi whispered to another worker one day. She's smiling more now, and everyone knew the reason. It was Tom. The town was still buzzing about the story of the homeless hero. Every newspaper had written about him, and people often came to the site just to see him. Tom didn't like the attention, but Clara smiled whenever she saw how people respected him. Tom, she said one morning, as they stood looking over the river. I've been thinking about something. Tom looked at her. What is it? This project isn't enough. There are still hundreds of people in Riverdale without homes. I want to build another one, a bigger one. But this time I want you to lead it completely. Tom blinked, unsure he heard right. Me, lead it? Yes, Clara said firmly. You have the skills, the heart, and the trust of the workers. You understand what people like you really need. Tom shook his head slowly. Clara, I can't lead such a big thing. I don't even know how to talk in meetings or handle paperwork. She smiled softly. I'll help you with all that. You've already proved you can lead people. That's what matters most. Tom was silent for a long moment. He looked at the half-built houses around him, then at the people who were working under the sun. If you really think I can do it, he said quietly, then I'll try. Clara's eyes shone. I know you can. That night, Tom sat in his small new room near the site, the one Clara had given him after he started work. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm and clean. He looked at the papers Clara had given him, plans, sketches, and costs. He couldn't believe that a few months ago he was sleeping under a broken wall, and now he was helping to build homes for others. But not everyone was happy about his success. Mr. Davis, who had been suspended, watched from afar. He had lost his position and respect because of Tom. His pride turned into anger. "Clara thinks he's some kind of saint," Davis muttered one night while drinking at a small bar. "But he's just a lucky beggar. I'll show everyone who he really is." He started digging into Tom's past, hoping to find something bad. A mistake, a crime, anything that could ruin his name. He even paid a man to follow Tom, but all they found was kindness. Tom helped old men cross the street, shared his lunch with stray dogs, and even gave away part of his pay to buy socks for a worker's child. "Still pretending to be good," Davis growled. "No one's that perfect." One morning, while Tom was inspecting the foundation for the new buildings, a delivery truck arrived with materials. He noticed something odd. The cement bags had a different label. "This isn't from our supplier," Tom said to the driver. "Mr. Davis ordered it," the driver replied casually. Tom's heart skipped. "What, he doesn't work here anymore?" The driver shrugged. "I don't know, sir. I was told to deliver this batch." Tom quickly opened one of the bags. The cement was low quality, the kind that cracked easily. He frowned. Someone was trying to sabotage the site. He immediately called Clara. "We've got a problem," he said. Clara came at once. When she saw the materials, her face hardened. "This is dangerous," she said. "If you hadn't checked, this could have caused a collapse." Tom sighed. "Someone is trying to ruin this project." Clara thought for a moment. "Davis," she said firmly. "It has to be him. He's the only one bitter enough." Tom didn't like accusing anyone, but he nodded. "Maybe, but we need proof." They informed the police quietly and replaced all the bad materials. Tom stayed at the site late into the night, checking everything again. As he walked through the dim light, he heard a noise. A small clink of metal near the scaffolding. He turned and saw a shadow moving. "Who's there?" He called out. No answer. He walked closer, and suddenly a figure ran off into the darkness. Tom chased him but slipped on the wet ground. By the time he stood up, the man was gone. He sighed and rubbed his shoulder. Someone doesn't want these homes built. The next day, Clara arranged for extra guards and cameras at the site. "We can't take risks," she said. "Too many lives depend on this," Tom agreed. "We'll keep going no matter what." The workers admired his strength. Even when tired or hurt, he never stopped. When someone was sick, he covered for them. When a wall needed fixing, he picked up the tools himself. Ravi once said, "Sir, you could have just stayed in the office. Why do you still work like one of us?" Tom smiled. "Because I am one of you." Slowly, Clara and Tom's friendship grew deeper. They often stayed late, going over plans or walking by the river after work. Clara found peace in his quiet company. She had spent years surrounded by people who wanted something from her, money, status, or favors. But Tom wanted nothing except to build something good. One evening, as the sunset turned the sky orange, Clara said softly, "Tom, do you ever think about your past?" He looked at the water. "Sometimes, but not much anymore." "Don't you miss the people you once knew?" she asked. He nodded. "I lost my family years ago. My wife got sick and I couldn't afford her treatment after losing my job. After she passed, I just stopped trying." Clara's eyes softened. "I'm sorry," Tom shrugged gently. "Life breaks you sometimes, but I think it also gives you chances to rebuild. Maybe that's what this is for me, rebuilding." Clara looked at him with quiet admiration. "You've rebuilt more than just yourself, Tom. You've rebuilt hope for others." Their eyes met for a moment and both looked away, shyly smiling. A few days later, the mayor visited again. He announced that the new housing area would be named Hope Square, in honor of Tom's courage and hard work. The workers cheered and Clara clapped proudly. But behind the crowd, Mr. Davis was watching. His anger had turned into something darker. He wanted revenge, not just for losing his job, but because he couldn't accept that a man once homeless was now respected by the whole town. That night, Davis broke into the site again. He carried a wrench and a flashlight, muttering under his breath, "Let's see how the hero handles this." He loosened the bolts of a scaffold, hoping to cause an accident that would blame Tom for negligence. But as he climbed down, one of the loose boards snapped. He slipped and fell with a cry. Tom, who had returned late to check some reports, heard the sound and ran toward it. He found Davis lying on the ground, his leg twisted and bleeding. "Mr. Davis," Tom shouted, rushing to him. "Are you all right?" Davis groaned in pain. "Leave me. I don't need your help." Tom ignored him and called for help. "Ravi, get the first aid kit." Within minutes, the workers came running. Tom carefully bandaged Davis's leg and waited until the ambulance arrived. Before they took Davis away, Clara arrived, shocked. "What happened?" Tom explained quietly. "He fell. He was trying to damage the site." She looked at Davis sadly. "Why, Mr. Davis? Why would you do this?" Davis turned his face away, ashamed. "Because you chose him over me," he muttered. Clara sighed. "You ruined yourself, not him." When the police took Davis away, Tom just stood quietly, watching the flashing lights disappear. Ravi said softly, "Sir, you saved him too, after all he did to you." Tom smiled faintly. "He's still a human being. I couldn't leave him there." The next morning, the workers talked about the incident. Many said Tom's heart was made of gold. Even Clara couldn't stop thinking about how he had saved the man who tried to harm him. Later that day, she went to Tom's small office. "You could have let him face the result of his own actions, but you didn't. Why?" Tom looked up from his papers. "Because hate doesn't fix anything. I've seen what anger does to people. I don't want to live like that." Clara nodded slowly. "You're a rare person, Tom." He smiled humbly. "No, I just try to do what's right." But before they could say more, a loud sound shook the ground. A truck had hit the main gate, damaging part of the fence. Everyone ran outside. No one was hurt, but it was another warning that not everyone wanted the project to succeed. Clara looked around, worried. "Someone's trying hard to stop us." Tom clenched his fists. "Then we'll work harder. We won't stop." That night, as he walked back home under the streetlights, Tom thought about everything that had happened, saving Clara, getting a second chance, and now leading a project that could change lives. He looked up at the night sky and whispered, "If there's any reason I'm still here, I'll find it." But little did he know. A storm was coming, not of wind or rain, but of truth. Something from Tom's past was about to return, and the next morning the town buzzed with new energy. People still talked about the homeless man who had saved the wealthy woman, but now the story had changed. It was no longer just about the rescue. It was about what had happened since. How Mira, the rich woman, had opened her heart to help the man she once would have passed without notice. How that man, Ravi, had become a quiet symbol of hope for everyone. Ravi woke early that day. The sunlight passed through the window of the small room Mira had given him in her guest house. It was still strange for him to wake up in a soft bed, under a roof instead of on the cold streets. Sometimes he would wake suddenly in the night, thinking he had overslept under a bridge or missed a charity meal, but then he would see the clean walls, the warm blanket, and he would breathe deeply in relief. He stood near the window looking out at the garden. The flowers were opening to the morning light and birds were singing. For years he'd only seen flowers on roadside stalls or wilted in garbage bins. Now he was surrounded by them. He smiled softly and whispered, "Maybe this is what peace looks like." Meanwhile, Mira was in her kitchen. She had started making breakfast herself these days, something she had not done in years. Her maid Suman smiled when she saw her cutting fruit. "Madam, you are changing," Suman said kindly. "Maybe it was time I did," Mira replied with a laugh. "For too long I lived inside walls I built myself." Ravi broke one of them without meaning to. Suman nodded. Everyone in the house respected Ravi now. He helped the gardeners, cleaned the yard, and even repaired small things around the house. He never acted proud or greedy. He always said, "You gave me a chance. Let me give back what I can." That morning, Mira had a meeting in the town hall. The mayor had invited her to discuss a new charity program. She wanted to take Ravi with her to speak about life on the streets, but when she told him, he looked nervous. "I don't think I can talk in front of so many people," he said quietly. "You can, Ravi," Mira said gently. "You have lived what they only talk about. Your words will mean more than mine." He hesitated, then finally nodded. "If you think it will help someone, I'll try." By noon, the town hall was full. The mayor stood in front of the crowd. Reporters, business owners, and townspeople had come to see what Mira and the mayor were planning. Cameras flashed as Mira walked in, with Ravi walking behind her in a clean shirt and simple trousers. Some people recognized him and began whispering, "Isn't that the homeless man?" Yes, the one who saved her life. He looks so different now. Mira stepped forward to speak. She told everyone about the day of the accident, about the falling wall, and how Ravi had saved her without a thought for his own safety. Her voice shook when she said, "That day I realized money cannot buy courage, kindness, or a human heart. It took a man who had nothing to remind me what it means to truly give." The audience grew silent. Then Mira looked at Ravi and said, "He has something to share too." Ravi stepped up slowly. His hands trembled, but his voice was steady. "I didn't save her because she was rich. I didn't even know who she was. I just saw someone in danger," he said simply. "For a long time, I thought I had nothing to offer the world. But kindness doesn't need money. It just needs a heart that still believes in good." The hall was silent for a few seconds, then applause filled the room. People stood up, clapping. Some even had tears in their eyes. The mayor came forward and shook Ravi's hand. "Your courage and your honesty are what this town needs," the mayor said warmly. "We are starting a project to help the homeless, and I want you to be part of it." Ravi's eyes widened. "Me, but I—" "Yes," the mayor smiled. "Who better to help than someone who truly understands?" After the event, the news spread quickly. Newspapers wrote about Ravi's speech. Pictures of him and Mira were printed with titles like "From Streets to Strength" and "Homeless Hero Inspires Town to Change." People began to look at the homeless differently. Many started volunteering, donating food and visiting shelters. The town's heart was slowly changing. That evening, Mira and Ravi sat on the porch drinking tea. The air was calm and the sky was orange with sunset. "You did well today," Mira said. "I'm proud of you," Ravi smiled shyly. "I was scared. But when I saw everyone listening, I thought, maybe this story wasn't just mine." "It isn't," Mira agreed. "It belongs to everyone who has lost hope and needs to find it again." They sat quietly for a while, watching the sun go down. Then a car stopped outside the gate. A man stepped out wearing old but neat clothes. He looked around, hesitating, then walked toward them. "Ravi?" the man said softly. Ravi looked up and froze. "Amit," he whispered. It was his younger brother. The brother he hadn't seen in years. The one who had thought he was dead. Mira stood up, surprised. "You know him?" Ravi nodded slowly, tears filling his eyes. "He's my brother." Amit stepped closer, his voice breaking. "I saw you on TV. I couldn't believe it. I thought you were gone by all these years." Ravi hugged him tightly, unable to speak. Mira stepped back, smiling warmly. It was a reunion neither of them had expected. Later, sitting together inside, Amit told them how he had searched for Ravi for years, but lost hope after the floods destroyed their old neighborhood. "When I saw your picture in the newspaper, I took the first bus here," he said, holding his brother's hand. Mira felt tears in her eyes. "Maybe this is what fate planned," she said softly. That day the wall fell, but it brought down more than bricks. It brought down walls between people. Ravi looked at her and nodded. "Yes, madam. Maybe that wall had to fall so I could finally find home again." From that night, Ravi and Amit stayed in the guest house together. Amit found work in Mira's new shelter project. They worked side by side, helping other homeless people find jobs and safe homes. Their story spread hope everywhere. Reporters called them the brothers who built hearts instead of walls. But not everyone was happy. A few wealthy people in town didn't like Mira's sudden attention. Some said she was using Ravi's story to make herself look good. Others said the homeless should stay where they were. Mira ignored the gossip, but she could sense trouble brewing. One evening, as she returned from the shelter, she saw a notice on her gate. It was from a businessman named Mr. Dutt, who owned land next to her property. He was angry that Mira's shelter plan would bring undesirable people near his area. He was threatening legal action to stop her project. Mira felt worried but refused to back down. "They can't silence kindness," she said firmly. "We will fight this." Ravi stood beside her. "You saved me once," he said. "Now it's my turn to stand with you." Over the next days, the tension grew. Some townspeople supported the shelter, but others sided with Mr. Dutt. Arguments broke out in public meetings. News channels showed both sides. It seemed the whole town was being tested. And then one night, something unexpected happened again. Something that would shake everyone's hearts and decide what kind of town they truly wanted to be. That night was quiet at first. The air was still, and the town seemed to be sleeping peacefully. Mira sat in her study, reading letters of support for her new shelter project. She smiled as she read each one. People from nearby towns had written to say how inspired they were by her and Ravi's story. But deep inside, she still worried about the threat from Mr. Dutt. He had powerful friends, and his anger toward her was growing. Meanwhile, Ravi and Amit were at the shelter, helping the workers move donated furniture into the new rooms. The shelter was almost ready to open. The walls were painted bright blue, and the beds were clean and new. Ravi walked through the rooms proudly, touching the walls softly. "From cold streets to this," he whispered. "I never thought I'd live to see it." Amit smiled beside him. "You didn't just see it, Bai. You built it." They both laughed quietly, not knowing that outside danger was near. Late that night, a group of men came to the edge of the shelter area. They wore masks and carried cans of fuel. They had been sent by Mr. Dutt's men to scare Mira into stopping her project. One of them whispered, "We just burn a small part of it," enough to make her quit. But fate was watching again. Ravi, unable to sleep, had gone outside to check the gates. He saw the men moving in the shadows and realized what they were planning. Without thinking, he shouted, "Who's there?" The men turned, startled. One of them threw a match toward the wall. The fire caught quickly on a wooden pile near the side of the building. "Fire, fire!" Ravi yelled, running toward the flames. Amit and other workers rushed out. Smoke filled the air and sparks began to fly. The men in masks ran away into the dark. Ravi grabbed a bucket and started throwing water, shouting for others to bring more. "Call the fire station," Amit shouted as he helped. Within minutes, the fire spread to the storage area. The new furniture caught flame and black smoke rose high. People nearby woke and came running. Some brought hoses, some carried sand. Ravi climbed up to the roof, trying to stop the fire from reaching the main hall. "Ravi, come down," Amit shouted. "I can stop it from spreading." Ravi shouted back, coughing as the smoke surrounded him. Soon, fire trucks arrived, their sirens cutting through the night. Firemen sprayed water from every side, and after a long, tense hour, the flames began to die. When the last spark went out, the shelter was damaged but still standing. Everyone looked around for Ravi, but he was nowhere to be seen. Amit ran toward the building, shouting his brother's name. "Ravi, where are you?" Then someone pointed. "Up there." Ravi was lying near the edge of the roof, coughing weakly, covered in ash and dust. The firemen quickly brought a ladder and helped him down. His hands were burned and his face was blackened with smoke, but his eyes were open. Mira arrived just then, out of breath, fear in her eyes. "Ravi!" She ran to him and held his hand. "You saved it." "You saved the shelter," she whispered. Ravi smiled faintly. "I just did what anyone would." The next morning, news spread across the town again. "Homeless hero saves town's shelter from fire," said the headlines. People gathered around the shelter, helping to clean and repair the damage. Volunteers doubled overnight. Even those who had doubted Mira now came to help. The mayor visited the site personally. "Ravi, you've shown us again what true courage looks like," he said, shaking his hand. "The town owes you more than words." Mr. Dutt was also there, standing at a distance. His plan had failed and guilt began to eat at him. When he saw the burned building and the people working together, something inside him changed. Later that day, he came to Mira's house looking ashamed. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "I let my pride blind me. I didn't want this shelter because I thought it would ruin my reputation. But now I see this place brings honor to all of us. Please forgive me." Mira looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "We don't build walls with hate, Mr. Dutt. We build hope with kindness. If you truly mean it, join us." He lowered his head. "I will." And so something unexpected happened again. Mr. Dutt donated a large piece of land next to the shelter. With his help, they built a small medical center for the poor. The same man who had once tried to stop them became one of their biggest supporters. Days passed and the shelter opened officially. The whole town gathered for the ceremony. Balloons flew in the air, children clapped and elders smiled. The mayor gave a speech and Mira thanked everyone for believing in kindness. When it was Ravi's turn to speak, the crowd grew quiet. He stepped forward slowly, his hands still wrapped in bandages. "I don't have big words," he said simply, "but I've learned that no one is too small to make a difference. I was a man without a home and now I have a family. Not by blood, but by heart." The people clapped louder than ever. Mira's eyes filled with tears. Amit hugged his brother tightly, proud beyond words. The sound of applause echoed through the town square. That night after the ceremony, Mira, Ravi, and Amit sat outside under the stars. A gentle breeze passed through the garden. The world felt calm again. You've changed so many lives, Ravi, Mira said softly, including mine. Ravi shook his head. No, madam. You gave me a chance when no one else did. You showed me that kindness still exists, she smiled. We both helped each other. You reminded me that money means nothing without compassion. Amit looked up at the stars. Pai, do you ever miss the old days? Ravi thought for a moment. Sometimes I think about the streets, but not because I miss the pain. I think about the people still there. We have to keep helping them one by one. Mira nodded. We will. The shelter is just the beginning. Months passed and the shelter grew. People from other towns visited to learn from their project. Ravi became the main caretaker, loved by everyone. He always had time to listen to others, share his story, and remind them that no one was beyond hope. One day a reporter asked him, "What do you think changed your life the most?" Ravi smiled and said, "A wall. A wall that fell. But sometimes when walls fall, they open the way for something better." Years later, the shelter was known across the region. It became a safe place for hundreds of